Hi, this is Stephen Mead, lifelong entrepreneur, business owner, and global speaker. Over the years, I've read hundreds of books and spent thousands of hours developing what I call the Bullseye Belief System. And I've used that system to develop my own companies, as well as help others learn to be specific, targeted, and focused to get exactly what they want in life. Again, I'm Stephen Mead, and this is the Bullseye Guy Podcast. Stephen Mead again, back with another Bullseye Guy Podcast, returning from Davos, Munich, a lot of fun places. But speaking of fun places, one of the things I'm fortunate to have been able to do through the last couple of years is the Monaco Grand Prix, the Monaco Formula One. And with me today is Nicholas Frankl, who is the proprietor of my yacht group. We're going to move forward to that, but before we do, I'm going to introduce Nicholas. He's got a fascinating, amazing background. And before we talk about how he ends up with Prince Albert and Eric Schmidt of Google and these amazing people around the world on super yachts, which sounds like a fun job. I know it's a lot of work. I've seen him work hard for that. I want Nicholas to introduce himself. He's got a fascinating background from everything with what he's done with his life, but also the sports side. So, Nicholas Frankl, give us a little introduction.
Goodness, it's already a huge introduction. Well, thank you for having me. It's very nice of you to make the time, and it's lovely to be here in downtown, very hot and sunny Los Angeles, Oscar week.
Yeah.
So I don't know where to start. I mean, I guess my background, thanks to my father and my mother, was very much related to and evolved around motor racing and Formula One. And so I think I went to my first Grand Prix with my twin sister Annabelle when we were aged something around 8 weeks old. And of course, back then it was pretty noisy. So it's amazing that my hearing is still as good as it is. So we spent a lot of time in our youth around motor racing, and that was back in the days with late racing legends like Mario Andretti and Emerson Fittipaldi and James Hunt and Niki Lauda. So that's, how I got into racing and sports and knowing about things like the Monaco Grand Prix. And so that was the early stages.
Yeah, and I've been fortunate to meet your dad and Annabelle. They're great. But that was the Formula One side.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is you grew up in
London.
But you were in the Olympics in an interesting sport that I wouldn't think of for
not
London. So let's talk about that.
It's not the first thing that comes to mind. I remember the Daily Mail newspaper and the Evening Standard newspaper in London, in England, and they ran a story saying these bobsledders are training for the Olympics in Wandsworth Park, which was the equivalent, which is just by the Thames River, which is the equivalent of sort of saying, these athletes are training on Santa Monica Boulevard or on Ocean,
right,
for the Winter Olympics.
For the Winter Olympics, yeah,
and which is what we were doing, and so we didn't have any bobsled tracks in England, of course, and even more peculiarly, I was actually training and representing very proudly the first Hungarian bobsled team, because my father is Hungarian. He escaped in 1956 during the Russian Revolution, went to the UK, and of course he was involved in motorsports. And I was getting into motorsports and testing cars and racing cars, and a lot of his friends had been killed in Formula One in the previous decades. And so he thought, maybe there's something else that you could do, because you probably won't be world champion because you're good, but you're not that good. And so is there anything else that you could do? And I was watching the Olympics in 1992, which was from France in Albertville, La Plagne. And my father was commentating on the bobsled because it was like Formula One, and he's been commentating on Formula One for 50 years. So at the time we realized that Austria were the Olympic champions, but there were also these amazing countries like Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago and the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, very small nations in Caribbean countries, and South Pacific, and no snow around them either. And Austria, being the Olympic champion, of course, was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and Hungary didn't have a team at all and had never been represented in the Winter Olympics in bobsledding. So we thought this was a great opportunity and a source of great pride for our nation to start a team. Now, of course, we had absolutely no concept or understanding of the sport at all. And as the gentleman from CBS television, Harry Smith, I think his name was. He used to be on CBS. He was
Eagle shaking his head, so I guess he remembers.
Harry Smith, I think it was, and a very learned TV guy, and I don't know if he did the Today Show or something like that. And he said to me, "So Nicholas, basically, when you started this, you didn't know the difference between a bobsled and a barbecue." And I said, "That is exactly right," because I had never seen one. And the first time I ever saw a bobsled was actually the first time I ever got really in a bobsled, which was in Eagles in Innsbruck in Austria, where they have a bobsled school and a bobsled track. They had the Olympics there back in the 60s. I think it was 68, but I might be wrong. And so I went there, and the beautiful thing about bobsledding is it's not like racing a car or running or cycling or anything like that. When you get it wrong in bobsledding, you crash. And when you crash in a bobsled, it's unbelievably unpleasant. I mean, it's really like having a car crash. But not a car crash that it doesn't finish anytime soon, because you're doing 65, 70, 75 miles an hour. If you want, you stick your hand out the window when you're doing 75 miles an hour, you get an idea as to how fast you're going. And then you focus that down onto a little 2-man bobsled on hard ice, very hard, very wet, very cold ice. And when you go upside down on a bobsled, you're going fast and you're on an ice track, so you don't stop. You just keep going all the way down, and the bobsled rotates and rolls around, and you get shaken around like being in a washing machine. And anything that touches the ice at that point, which is mostly your body or your crash helmet, is going to get burnt. So you burn through your helmet, you burn through your skin. You end up with having to go and have skin grafts and things for the bobsledders have a lot of those in their shoulders. So it's pretty unpleasant. So it's incredibly thrilling and exciting on one side. So the upside is incredibly thrilling. The downside is incredibly painful. And so if you do crash, and when you start, of course you make mistakes. But if you start crashing a lot, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, you're going to end up in hospital pretty quickly. And I mean, I did. And then also you won't get anyone to come in the back of the bobsled with you, because they'll be so terrified. They'll be in hospital as well, and you just run out of brakemen. So it's a fairly steep learning curve, but I at least understood the physics part of it and how the pressure system works, because you're driving a very heavy object down this ice track, and you have this enormous pressure building as you go around the corners. So it's all about steering and controlling the pressure of the bobsled, and that's what allows you to go down smoothly, at least in practice, smoothly. So I didn't crash very much. The first few weeks of bobsledding actually didn't crash at all, so that got me excited. And then I went to a very famous track in Italy called Cortina d'Ampezzo, which is where they have had the Olympics before, and they're going to have the Olympics again. They just won the Olympics back. They shot the James Bond movies there. It's very, very cool. And then went back to Austria in February and crashed and went straight to hospital. Wow. So I woke up in Innsbruck in a hospital and looked at this nurse, and I thought I actually did think I died and gone to heaven because she was so beautiful. And that was the kind of that moment where you end up having a brain scan, and are you okay? And I had concussion and stuff, and I was fine. And I said, okay, we've got to get back on the horse, so to speak, and keep doing it. Wow. So first race was January 93, and we went 0 to the Olympics in 1 year as a purely amateur team.
And what was your big takeaway from the Olympics? If you were to pick 1 or 2 things, what sort of stuck with you?
The opening ceremony is very special. Okay. I mean, the Lillehammer Olympics in 1994 was an exceptional Olympics. It was the last small family Olympics. This was a village of 16,000 people, which then suddenly had the Olympics party come to town. And which is hundreds of thousands of people. So it was really, if you speak to anyone like Peekaboo Street or any of these old Olympic athletes who competed in multiple games, they'll all tell you that they look very fondly upon Lillehammer. And I would say that, certainly being an athlete, I was young, I was 21 years old, and being an athlete and walking into the opening ceremony is just really an awesome feeling. Yeah. It's extraordinary, and you think to yourself, my goodness, how did I get here? And also waking up every morning and having breakfast in the Olympic Village in the dining room, which is obviously, it's a huge cafeteria, but everyone's there. All the athletes are there. So you're rubbing shoulders. At the time, it was Torvill and Dean, who were the British ice skating duo, and Tara Lipinski.
Yeah, wow.
And of course, you had Tonya Harding and all those. So they were all there. And Hermann Maier, I think, was a skier at the time. So there was some really, obviously for their time, those were the athletes. Tommy Moe, I think, was Olympic champion for the United States for downhill skiing at that year. So that was a takeaway. I think the other thing was that everyone assumes that Olympics is the best of the best, and of course it is. But it's run by each federation, so each sport brings their best athletes to the Olympic Games. But the Olympic Games is not just about the gold, the silver, and the bronze. The Olympic Games is about, as they have advertised quite correctly, celebrating humanity, celebrating amateurs, doing good to the world. The Olympic competitors from many, many countries are not going to win any medals, but they are representing their nation proudly, and they are heroes in their countries, especially the smaller countries. And you never say you're an ex-Olympian. You are an Olympic athlete. There are no ex-Olympic athletes. And there is an amazing body now called the World Olympians Association, which is the alumni body of approximately 70,000 athletes around the world. We now wear pins with OLY, which stands for Olympic Athlete. We have that on the end of our names, and it's really a I wouldn't call it a heavy burden, but I would call it a pride that you carry with you. And when you meet people, and most people I deal with on a daily basis or have known you for many years, do not know that I have been in the Olympics, because I don't really talk about it that much, and if they don't know, they just don't know. Obviously, there's a community of bobsledders, and we all know each other, and there's a community of athletes who have become great friends. And the friendships that you make from sport are really great friends, and that's the same for myself or anyone who competes. When you've gone through that type of emotion and struggle and failure and triumph, and lived that with a community of people, your own team and other teammates, you're never going to forget those guys.
Yeah.
It's a very real thing.
And how did you transition then from that to the stuff you were doing with BAFTA, which sort of led you into the My Yacht Group of what you have now?
Yeah. When I came to LA, I had a beverage company actually, which was a lot of fun. I've always been an entrepreneur. I had met a team of energy drink executives in Australia at the Melbourne Grand Prix in 1996. And I had started working in Asia with an energy drink called Hype Energy, which is still on sale today. The executive team then left, and we set up our own beverage company called Fuse Plus, which consequently we raised money in London. We started selling it in the UK, and then we started selling it in the US. And I did a bunch of distribution deals with Trader Joe's and 7-Eleven, all these guys. Yeah. And so we sold the company back in around 2002. And then I was asked to join or to set up a sports marketing agency here, which I did for a UK company. And I ran around talking to all the great brands of America, which was enormous fun. And at the time, I remember sitting in the offices of Kodak in Atlanta with a gentleman who was running their Olympics program. And I'd met him before, and I said, I'm doing a new thing now. And we were developing a software algorithm for sponsorship to allow sponsors to have a much more efficient way to communicate. And he said, Nicholas, we're the fourth most recognized brand in the world. We don't need anyone. That was Kodak. Where are they today? So he said, do you know how much film we sold at the Sydney Olympics? So he was very proud of himself. But long story, I then moved into sponsorship marketing. I'd always been in Formula One, of course, with my bobsled team. I had my own sponsors as well because it was privately funded. And so in the US, I had become a member of the British Academy of Film and Television here in Los Angeles, and I started working for them to try and raise funding. They are a 501c3 corporation, and we took them from approximately $50,000 to a few $1 million in revenue in a relatively short period of time, transformed the Academy, transformed their giving and their 501c3 programs, which are actually right down here in downtown LA, the Helen Keller Park projects, to helping gangs children hang out together. The Cribs and the Bloods kids could play in the same park. Previously couldn't do it. So that was a great initiative. And in addition to that, with the brands that I was working with, I had already started obviously attending the Monaco Grand Prix. This is going back 28 years ago, and I could see that there was an opportunity, having run the Ferrari sponsorship with the royal jeweler called Asprey. So Asprey is the royal jeweler. They make the crowns and the diamonds and all these things for the royal family. And they have a boutique, more than a boutique. They have a store in London on Bond Street, and they're a 250-year-old store, family owned. They were family owned, and I had started a yacht party with the Ferrari team and the Asprey clients back in 97, 98, 99, when Michael Schumacher, who then went on to be 7-time world champion, and Eddie Irvine was driving for them, and Jean Todt, who is now the president of the FIA, was the head of Ferrari Motorsport. And so I saw that the whole specialness of the Monaco Grand Prix obviously is a super yacht. That's where everybody wants to be. Yeah. And I had the opportunity with my relationships with the Principality and my relationships with Formula One and my relationships with brand partners to bring all of those people together and to create something which was unique. And so that's what really started the My Yacht. Originally it was My Yacht Monaco and now My Yacht Group 15 years ago. This year will be our 15th year at the Monaco Grand Prix.
And for My Yacht Group, which again, I've been fortunate to attend some, they're amazing, but how would you, if somebody were to ask you what it is, how would you describe what it is? Because I want to first hear you say what it is, and then I want us to delve into what it actually is when you're participating, because until you've been, you don't understand it. But if I said, Nicholas, what is My Yacht Group? What's your answer for that?
It's a global high net worth, ultra high net worth, and influencer networking company. Which sounds like complete nothing, but actually is really, really interesting. And on my business card, it says connector in chief, because that effectively is what I'm doing. I connect people, and the revenue model is based upon brands, from all sorts of walks of life, all sorts of categories, whether it be blockchain, whether it be automotive, watches, jewelry, aerospace, or in some cases actually space. Space-based. And the demands of those companies is either to raise funding, to raise awareness and visibility, to engage with their existing clients in a cohesive and authentic environment, and of course to meet qualified people who they might be able to do business with. So I have found that the USP, the unique selling proposition of a super yacht at these high-profile locations around the world, is a much more compelling and exciting invitation for the end user, for the people who are being invited, than a standard boutique reception or come to our dealership or come to a nice hotel ballroom or come to this beautiful house. Super yachts, in my experience, trump everything.
And let's talk about that from a business model standpoint, because again, fortunately I've been there. You have super ultra luxury high-end brands coalesced with on the yacht. It's 100, 115. There's a finite number of people that are allowed on. And again, I've watched you do this. I don't envy you at all, because it's an insurance issue. It's not, oh, hey, we'll let more people on. It's you only have a certain number of people. Yeah. And when you have people on the dock at Monaco, it's like the Oscars. Everybody thinks they're somebody.
Yes.
And you've got guys worth 100, 200, 300 million a bit. You're like, I'm sorry, you can't come on. But you're curating an environment for the brand that's really the value proposition. Like being able to attend's fabulous, but for the brands, talk about kind of what you do uniquely, because the Monaco one is probably the jewel, but you also do Concours d'Elegance and Art Basel. There's other ones around, but how do you really curate for the brands? Because that's the value proposition for your business.
It depends upon the brand specifically, because some brands are focused. I mean, for instance, with the space company, this is an extreme sharp end of the needle, because if you're not a billionaire, you're probably not going to go to space, at least not today, with this program, because it's a $50 million program, and it's the world's most expensive experience. So if you're only dealing with that type of environment, that is a very, very narrow audience. Most of the brands that we work with are slightly broader, so that an individual who is, let us say, worth 5 million, 10 million, 25 million, 100 million, whatever, is someone who's interested in that brand or interested in investing in new tech companies or biotech companies, has a family office. It's not all about wealth. I mean, people always say to me, well, if you're not rich, you can't come to your event. And I said, that's absolutely not true. What is interesting about what we curate there is it is all about the world's most interesting people. It is not about their checkbook being interesting. It's about them being interesting. So we love having, thought-provoking, interesting people who are successful in their fields, whether it be cancer surgeons, whether it be explorers who are going up the tops of mountains or going down to the depths of the oceans, innovators, scientists, of course, athletes, Olympic athletes. We have, of course, lots of Olympic athletes coming and Olympic champions and others. A huge, broad spectrum of people. Celebrities per se, I don't particularly personally find interesting, at least media celebrities. So I tend not to go after that audience. But it depends how you categorize a celebrity. For me, Buzz Aldrin is a celebrity.
Yes.
He's an interesting person.
Not only do you not go after the celebrities, I know you've left a few of them on the dock who have been rather frustrated because their ego was bruised that they couldn't get on, and I've seen it happen. So
these things happen.
I don't envy you. Let's talk about a couple programs, because the one you have currently is really fascinating, and I love how you gloss over them because to you live it every day. You said, "Oh, space like this," and there's a space program you're involved with right now. Part of the format is the My Yacht Group are these very highly curated dinners and invitationally around what might be a Monaco Formula One event or what might be a Concours de Lagans. What's the project that you're working on with the space opportunity? Because it is unique.
It is very unique, and it is actually game changing. So there is a company out of Houston, Texas, which has been founded by the most serious and accomplished NASA executives and astronauts, called Axiom Space. They actually just won a week ago a very unique, I guess it was a prize, you could say, but they won a competition with NASA to be selected to be the sole partner currently to build a commercial space module onto the existing space station.
Yeah.
The existing space station, for those who don't know, is currently above our heads, 400 kilometers up, so about 250 miles above our heads. It's been there for 20 years orbiting. It's normally got about 4 to 6 people on board from 15 different countries who own the International Space Station. It cost approximately $100 billion, and the operating budget is approximately $3.5 billion a year. But that station, it will retire in the next 5-7 years, and there is no replacement planned from a governmental perspective.
Yeah.
So this company has the opportunity now, effectively, to own research development and manufacturing in space on their own space station. And in addition to that, they have developed a tourism model, and there will be an expanded hotel opportunity, if you want to describe it as a hotel in space. And currently, what we are doing is going around the world communicating to these ultra high net worth individuals that if they, once you've achieved a certain status in your life and a certain degree of success, and you've got a super yacht or 2 super yachts, and you've got foundations, and you've got charities, and you've built a hospital.
In this world you can do, so you have to leave the world.
Right. So once you've done a lot of those achievements, a lot of people have a vision to say, okay, well, what does this planet really look like from 400 kilometers up?
Yeah.
And it will unquestionably change your life. It will change your world, your perspective of the world. It will change your legacy that you leave behind as a fully private astronaut. In the last 20 years, there was a Russian program which was operating on and off sporadically, which allowed people like Guy Laliberté, who was the founder of Cirque du Soleil, who achieved great success. And he's the type of global visionary that you want to be in space and then come back down and tell everybody about it. And he shot an incredible book, a huge book that he made from all his photographs. And I actually have one of his photographs on my wall in Monaco, which he shot from 400 kilometers up of this incredible the blueness of Lake Baikal. And I'm proud to have it. And so if you speak to anyone who's been up there, Charles Simonyi from Microsoft, who was the founder of Microsoft Word or the creator of Microsoft Word and others, not Microsoft Office, he's been twice. And in fact, I was talking to their chief astronaut, Michael Lopez Alegria, who's a 4-time world record holding astronaut, 3 shuttle commands, 1 Soyuz command, so launched from Russia, more than 250 days in space, and the world record holding American astronaut for the number and the amount of time spent space walking. I think approximately 68 hours spacewalking. So he physically built the International Space Station with his hands.
Wow.
And I just said to him, we were chatting, incredible, remarkable man, and he was about to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in Cape Canaveral in May, which we'll be attending. And I was saying to him, so what was it like up at the space station? And we were talking about the people who'd been up there to meet him. And we talked about Charles. He said, oh, yeah, I met Charles. I said, well, where did you meet him? He said, I met him on the space station.
Why not?
And I said, well, of course you did. I want to be in the bar when the girl comes up and sees you two next to each other. So how'd you guys meet?
In space.
In space, on the space station.
Space.
Yeah, so it's cool stuff.
And so that one really has two parts to it that you've talked to me about, which I think are fascinating. One is the opportunity to actually be part of the next generation space station. It's an investment opportunity. They're going to build another station,
Correct.
privatize,
Yes.
commercialize, all sorts of things. And then there's this little, if you've got an extra $50 million and want to spend 10 days in space, you can buy a ticket.
You can buy a ticket. It's 15 weeks training at Houston. And out here in California, their partner is SpaceX, as well as Boeing. They're partnered with both. SpaceX, as many of you listeners, viewers will know, has the Dragon rocket, the Heavy Dragon, and they have the capsule, the Dragon 2 capsule, which is going up.
Yeah.
And it's already been up to the space station, I think, something like 15 or 16 times already. And they're going to have the crew version of that launch, I think, certainly in the next few months with the first NASA astronauts. So they will, for the first time since the space shuttle retired, which I believe was 2011, the U.S. will be launching astronauts back to the International Space Station. In the last decade or so, we have only relied on the Russians to do that. So it's good to have your own ability to do that.
Yeah. Well, with $50 million, you can buy your ability up, which is amazing. The My Yacht Group, I know that the events are around the world. I want to go back to Monaco for a minute because the Formula One is one of the premier events. So you've got these layers. My other podcast actually was on layers at Davos and these sort of abilities to get in. So you've got Formula One, then you have the super yacht, then you have the exclusive invitations and the private brands that you've curated amazingly, but then you've also partnered with the Prince Albert Foundation, where it's a busy time of the year. It's a busy weekend.
Busy weekend.
And he's hanging out for 3 hours on the yacht talking to people. So for a minute, just talk about, Albert's amazing and you've known him. I've met him once through you, but you do tie things into philanthropy and foundation,
Absolutely.
not just Prince Albert's, the Blue Angels,
Absolutely.
some other ones.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that side of the My Yacht Group as it ties into philanthropy, because you have an opportunity that most people don't to really move the needle.
All of our super yacht events are charity related. And so our objectives with the charity partners, which include Yacht Aid Global in Florida. So they are a company, a brilliant company who they use the super yachts as rescue ships. So super yacht owners donate their super yachts, which are all beautiful. They fill them up to the brim with supplies, and they send them out as supply ships. And they of course have spent a lot of time in the last few months, or the last year, in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. And they were almost the first line of defense. They were out there, straight from Fort Lauderdale, filled up, boom, and sending them out. Fantastic charity. We've worked for many, many years, and we're very, very privileged to have been chosen and be trusted by the Prince Albert II Foundation to work with them and to host a high visibility event at the Monaco Grand Prix to bring the charity, the foundation, to our guests who are coming in from all over the world, and to raise awareness and funds. We do silent auctions on board. And as part of that, again, we've been honored quite a number of times with His Serene Highness Prince Albert, who is a tremendous, extraordinary individual, and actually in Los Angeles today, and because he is hosting a gala tonight. And they'll have Macy Gray performing and Sharon Stone, and I should think they'll probably raise $10 million tonight at a beautiful private home up in the Hollywood Hills. And so he is incredibly passionate about ecology and the oceans especially, and obviously Monaco being such a unique principality, and it is a very, very special place. And I would advise anyone, if you have never been to Monaco, do go and visit Monaco.
Yeah.
It is an amazing, amazing place. Don't get swept away by the casino square and the opulence and all the Rolls Royces and things that are driving around, because it does give you a slightly Beverly Hills-esque view of the whole place, and it is a small country. There's so much more to it. 50,000 people a day drive into Monaco from the neighboring regions of France and Italy to go to work in Monaco. 50,000 a day. It's the largest employer in the region.
Yeah.
And it's everything from the Athletics Federation, the IAAF, to the Atomic Energy Foundation, so many diverse companies are based in Monaco now, and employing amazingly talented people. And the foundation does amazing work, and they've worked very closely with world leaders, and as you say, with Davos, of course, he's attending Davos. So we work with the Blue Angels Foundation, which is incredible. I mean, I'm a private pilot, and the Blue Angels Foundation, we collaborate with their former lead pilots during the Navy Fleet Week celebration in San Francisco in October. Again, raising funds, raising awareness and visibility. They are all about post-traumatic stress disorder. We're losing 22 servicemen a day through suicide. It doesn't get talked about enough. These people sacrifice an enormous amount, for their countries, and so that we can actually enjoy the freedoms that we so graciously do enjoy. And these people need help. So we are very proud to work with those charities, we also work with a number of others as well, depending upon where we are in the world. In St. Bart's, we've worked with a handicap charity, local handicap charity, and we hosted our first events there about 5 years ago. St. Bart's is this tiny, beautiful little island in the Caribbean, next to St. Martin. And so we hosted a charity event there when we I helped co-found the Gustavia Yacht Club, which is a little yacht
I was going to wrap up with that, but I'm glad you brought that in there. So talk about that for a minute, because we'll wrap up. St. Bart's is one of the most unique opportunities around New Year's Eve. I haven't been, but I have people that said it's fabulous. You did, after the actual hurricane, one of the only parties and events there, but you've also helped open the yacht club. So just talk about that for a minute, and then we'll kind of wrap up.
Yeah, there's some local friends from Monaco, and interesting people, and we just thought of an idea. It was led by Sestelios, who is the original founder of and with his family of the EasyJet group, and EasyJet is the airline in Europe. It's the Southwest Airlines of Europe, orange airplanes. And so he's a huge philanthropist, and he's a big fan of St. Bart's, and he and a number of our friends collaborated to create a little yacht club there to give an opportunity for people to meet, a meeting space in a very small but very beautiful town, and a very intimate port. And again, it's all about connecting people. That's the beauty of what we do. I have so many stories, having 15 years of events, 5 to 10 events a year, hundreds of people all over the world, from Hong Kong to San Francisco to Los Angeles to Miami for Art Basel, obviously the Monaco Grand Prix, Cannes Film Festival, and we're creating these yacht experiences all over the world. And people meet, and amazing things happen. Yeah. We have had babies, we've had marriages, we've had business deals, we've had watches, aeroplanes bought and sold, super yachts changing hands, and if nothing else, a great time, and a great time to celebrate a great occasion. Yeah,
and so, as I said, I've been fortunate to go there. They're amazing. Nicholas Frankl, My Yacht Group, the space thing, super excited about that. That's going to be game changer. Some of your events, any ultra high net worth brands, anybody that wants to be sort of in that area, reach out. Nicholas has a fabulous program. He and his twin sister Annabelle run it. Your dad's amazing.
82, still going.
82 still. I did pick him up though
That's right.
At Monaco. I saw him standing on the corner about to catch the bus. I'm like, jump in, let's go.
Well, the bus is actually good in Monaco. It's a pretty good bus service.
They are, but I saw him standing there, so I gave him a ride. But
he's celebrating, I think, 54th Monaco Grand Prix this year.
Yeah.
He's 82. And anytime I'm on the yacht, I'm always wondering where he is. And I'm always wondering where the prettiest girls are. And they're always next to him. And they all come down from the top deck and they say, "Oh, my goodness, your father is so charming." I say, "Oh, goodness."
Maybe it passed down to you as well. Speaking of which, family doing great?
Yes.
So
Jennifer and Jelena are doing great, and they're coming to the gala. Well, Jelena's not coming to the gala, but Jennifer's coming to the gala tonight, so she's getting ready. And it should be a very, very, very special evening here during Oscar week. So
perfect.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right. Well, big thanks to Nicholas Frankl, My Yacht Group. Amazing job. Keep up the good work. Anybody that wants to go to space, if you have an extra 50 million, or just cobble it together from your friends. Unique opportunity. Steve and me closing up the Bullseye Guy podcast. Great stuff as always. Groove Radio, Eagle. We love the studios downtown. So tune in again next week. Steve and Mead, thank you very much.